I grew up hearing the same sentence over and over again. You'll never own a car. Emily. My mother's voice carried a mix of disappointment and mockery each time she said it, like my ambitions personally offended her. We lived in a small town outside Boston, Massachusetts, where dreams were either inherited or suffocated. My mom believed in the latter. She'd lean against the doorway of my room, arms crossed, shaking her head as I drew sketches of futuristic buses and sleek trains. "Stop wasting your time," she'd say. "Girls like us don't get to dream about vague things. We survive. That's all." But I had learned early on that survival felt too much like silence, and silence had become my worst enemy. My mom controlled everything. My schedule, my spending, even the friends she thought were good enough for me. Her favorite phrase, the one she wore like armor, was, "You're not smart enough for big things." She said it when I got accepted into an engineering summer program. She said it the day I wanted to buy my first cheap used car. She even said it when I worked 2 part-time jobs in high school. "No matter how hard you try," she'd sigh dramatically, "you'll always be stuck." The day my life cracked open started when our car broke down on the side of the highway. It was winter, and the air outside was sharp enough to leave welts on my skin. We were on our way to my aunt's house, and traffic was crawling. My mom was furious at me, not the car, not the situation, me. "If you'd studied harder," she snapped. "Maybe one day you could buy us something better instead of this junk." I looked at her, then at the endless line of cars and buses whizzing by, and something inside me shifted. I saw the chaos of the roads, the inefficiency of the lines, and the frustration of every driver stuck behind us. I didn't have the language for it yet, but I felt a spark. A blueprint. A future. When the tow truck arrived 2 hours later, I kept staring at the highway. I imagined what a perfect transportation system would look like: electric buses that moved silently through cities, autonomous shuttles that adapted in real time to traffic, routes that served underserved communities, systems that valued people like me, systems that didn't abandon families on the side of the road. But my mother didn't like ambition. She preferred obedience. By the time I turned 18, she convinced our entire family that I was a waster. When I applied to study transportation engineering at MIT, she laughed in my face. You?" She smirked like the idea itself was a joke. "You'll never make it there. You couldn't even make it to a job interview on time last week." That interview had been the day her alarm accidentally failed to wake me up. A coincidence, she claimed, but I got in. The acceptance letter arrived on a rainy afternoon. My hand shook as I opened it. "Congratulations." My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe life was changing. Then my mother snatched the letter out of my hand. Her eyes raced across the page. "You're not going." The words hit me harder than any slap could have. "What do you mean I'm not going?" I whispered, "You can't afford anything there. And I'm not paying for your nonsense. MIT isn't for people like you." Then she folded the letter and stuffed it in her drawer like it was an unpaid bill. That night, I cried quietly, biting my pillow so she wouldn't hear. But pain has a strange way of revealing truth, the truth that no one was coming to save me. If I wanted a future, I would have to build it myself. So I did. I worked. Harder than I knew was humanly possible. I took a year off to save money, cleaning offices at night, stocking shelves at dawn, tutoring kids in math whenever I could. Every dollar was a step. Every hour was fuel. Finally, with scholarships, grants, and the savings I had scraped together, I left home. I still remember the look on my mother's face the morning I dragged my suitcase out the front door. It wasn't sadness. It was annoying, like I was inconveniencing her by choosing my own life. MIT was the first place I felt alive. I devoured every lecture, every lab, every late-night discussion about the future of transport. My fascination with systems grew into obsession. I wanted to build vehicles that didn't break down, buses that didn't leave people stranded, networks that didn't discriminate based on zip code or income. While other students were going to parties, I was building prototypes in campus labs. My classmates joked that I didn't have blood. I had electricity drop by sophomore year. I had created my first simulation, an AI-driven bus route optimizer that could reduce commute times in major cities by up to 40%. No one believed the numbers at first. Then a professor submitted my algorithm to a national innovation competition and everything exploded. Investors called. City officials emailed. Transportation researchers wanted to meet me. For the first time in my life, the world saw value in something I built, but the moment my mom found out, she called me screaming. You think you're better than us now? MIT made you arrogant. No, I said quietly. MIT made me free. Yet, even as her voice raged through the phone, I felt no anger, only distance. The distance between who she said I was and who I had become, and deep down, a fire crackled. The same fire that would someday ignite a $2.8 billion transportation empire. But at that time, I was just a girl with student loans, an old laptop, and a dream my mother said I would never touch, owning a car. Little did she know, I was about to build something far bigger. Success didn't arrive in a limousine. It came in the form of a glitchy laptop, lukewarm coffee, and a tiny shared office above a noisy laundromat in downtown Boston. After graduating from MIT, I had two options: take a comfortable job at a big transportation firm with a steady salary, or bet everything on an idea so ambitious it made my professors raise their eyebrows. I chose the risk. I called my company Aurora Transit Systems because I loved the idea of light breaking through darkness. Our mission was simple but massive: redesign urban transportation from the ground up using AI, electric fleets, and dynamic routing that actually respected people's time and dignity. No more waiting for buses that never came. No more walking 40 minutes in the snow because your neighborhood didn't qualify as profitable. I didn't just want to make money, I wanted to fix the feeling I had as a kid. Abandoned on that highway shoulder while my mother yelled at me for a broken car she couldn't afford to fix. In the beginning, though, Aurora was anything but impressive. It was me, one former classmate named Jonah, and a friend from the coding club, Priya, crammed into a cheap office that smelled permanently like detergent and steam. Our fleet was theoretical. Our clients were imaginary. All we had was a prototype, software that could analyze real-time traffic, user demand, and local constraints to dispatch autonomous shuttles where they were needed most. Cities said they loved the idea. Investors said they'd circle back. Everyone loved to be inspired in meetings, but inspiration doesn't pay rent. There were nights I fell asleep at my desk, jolted awake by the clanging of machines downstairs, my neck aching, my eyes burning. There were days when Jonah suggested maybe we should sell the software to a bigger company and just take jobs there. We could live comfortable lives, Em, he'd say gently, fingers spinning an empty coffee cup. You don't have to carry the world on your back. I'd stare at the lines of code on the screen and picture my mother's face, lips twisted, saying, "You'll never even own a car." Her voice didn't break me anymore. It fueled me. No, I answered every time. We're building the whole thing. Not just the brain, the body too. The first crack in the wall came from an unexpected place, a small, struggling city in upstate New York named Harrington. Harrington had declining bus ridership, shrinking budgets, and growing frustration. Their mayor, a woman named Alicia Reed, was known for taking chances no one else would. One of our professors knew her from a conference and recommended us. She showed up on a video call with tired eyes and a sharp mind. "All right, Emily," she said, tilting her head. "You're 24. You look barely old enough to rent a car. Why should I trust you with my city's transit system?" My heart pounded so loudly, I thought the microphone might pick it up. Because I grew up in a town where public transport failed everyone who couldn't afford a car, I said. Because I've lived what your residents are living. And because I'm not just trying to sell you buses, I'm trying to build a system that treats time like it's sacred. Your people deserve that. She watched me for a long moment. But there's a look that passes over someone's face when they recognize sincerity. It's like a softening of the edges. "You get one pilot district," she replied. 3 months. If you don't reduce costs and improve commute times, we shut this down. No complaints, deal? Deal? I breathed. The next weeks blurred. We secured a tiny seed investment, just enough to lease a small fleet of electric shuttles instead of owning them outright. We partnered with a local dealership for maintenance and storage. We spent every waking moment tailoring our algorithms to Harrington's messy, imperfect streets. Aurora software monitored traffic, weather, school schedules, hospital shifts, everything. Our app allowed residents to request rides, but it also predicted demand, moving shuttles before people even opened the app. We staffed live support with volunteers and interns, promising experience and stock options instead of salaries we couldn't afford yet. Launch day was both exhilarating and terrifying. We stood huddled around a giant monitor in our laundromat office and another in Harrington's town hall. The first ride request came from a nurse, Maria, who worked the night shift at Harrington General Hospital. For years, she'd walked 30 minutes in the dark to the nearest bus stop. That morning, an Aurora shuttle glided silently to the corner near her house, as if the city itself had finally decided to respect her time. When the shuttle arrived at the hospital, she snapped a photo and posted it online with the caption, "First time in years, I didn't have to beg someone for a ride. Whoever built this, thank you." The post went viral within the city. The second day, ridership doubled. The third tripled. Commute times dropped. Fuel and operational costs went down. Drivers now repositioned as fleet safety supervisors and dispatch coordinators sent us emails saying, "I thought automation would replace us. I didn't think it would give us better jobs." For the first time, our numbers weren't just theoretical, they were changing lives. 3 months later, Mayor Reed called me into her office. I sat across from her, hands sweating, knee bouncing. She dropped a thick printed report onto the desk. "You cut average commute times by 35%, she said calmly. "You slashed our operational costs by nearly 20%, and satisfaction surveys are higher than anything we've ever seen. My council thinks you're some kind of magician." I exhaled slowly, barely daring to believe it. "We want to expand Aurora to the entire city," she continued. "And I know other mayors are watching. You need to be ready for what's coming." What was coming, I didn't know. But I knew this. Our little idea, born in pain and doubt, had just been given proof of life. Within a year, Aurora Transit Systems had signed contracts with 4 more mid-sized cities across the U.S. Each one started small, a district here, a transit corridor there. Each time, the results were the same. Lower costs, shorter commutes, happier residents. Investors who had ignored my emails now flooded my inbox. "We've always believed in your vision," they lied smoothly. I smiled politely, but I remembered the silence. I remembered every no, every "you're too young," every smirk. 2 years after Harrington, I signed our first deal in London. A borough on the outskirts was desperate to modernize its outdated bus routes without bankrupting its live. We adapted Aurora for the UK, integrating double-deckers and congestion charges, all while maintaining that same promise, dignity through time. Our valuation started climbing. $200 million. $600 million. Just numbers on paper, people said, and maybe they were. All I cared about was that every new contract meant more people who didn't have to walk alone in the dark. More nurses who didn't have to choose between overtime and catching the last bus. More kids who could get to school on time without praying the bus wasn't canceled. And then came the day I had dreamed about since I was a child, without letting myself admit it. I was back in Boston for meetings with a major state transportation agency. We'd been negotiating a large-scale regional deal that would integrate Aurora's system into existing infrastructure. If it went through, it would push our valuation past the billion mark. A unicorn, they called it. I called it survival with teeth. Between meetings, I walked past a sleek glass-front dealership downtown. In the window, under perfect lighting, sat a deep midnight blue electric car. Elegant, quiet, powerful. I usually passed dealerships without stopping. I had spent so long being told I never belong in places like that it had become a reflex. But that day, something tugged at me. I stepped inside. A A salesman approached, his smile professional but guarded. "Can I help you?" he asked. I almost said, "I'm just looking." Instead, I heard myself reply, "Yes, I'd like to buy that one." He blinked. "Do you want to run a credit check, talk financing?" "No," I answered gently. "I'll pay in full." 15 minutes later, the paperwork was done. The keys were in my hand. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door, and the world fell quiet, wrapped in the soft hum of electric power. Tears gathered in my eyes, not because of the car itself, but because of everything it represented. That little girl in the highway, freezing and humiliated, finally had the steering wheel. That night, as I drove the car out of the city, my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't saved but could never forget. My mother. I let it ring once, twice, and I answered, my voice calm. "Hello?" "Emily," she said, the syllables stiff. "Your aunt told me you're back in town. You didn't think to visit your own mother?" I could hear the TV in the background. Some reality show drama, her life unchanged. "I've been busy," I said. "I have meetings." She scoffed. "Still playing with your bus toys?" I glanced at the clean digital dashboard in front of me, my reflection faint in the glass. Outside, city lights streaked past like comets. "Something like that," I replied. "Well," she continued, "I need your help. The car is broken again. I swear it's cursed. Can you send me some money? I can't keep asking your aunt. She has her own problems." I slowed at a red light, the car gliding to a smooth stop, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel. The irony made my chest burn. The woman who told me I never own a car was calling me. Not knowing her daughter's company was quietly reshaping transportation across continents. "I'll help," I said softly. "But I'm not just sending money." "Then what are you going to do?" She snapped. The light turned green. I pressed the accelerator, feeling the car surge forward steady, controlled, powerful. A small, almost dangerous smile curved at the corner of my mouth. "I'm going to come by tomorrow," I said, "and I'm going to give you a ride." She didn't know that by the time I pulled into her driveway. I wouldn't be just the daughter she underestimated. I would be the founder and CEO of a transportation company soon to be valued at $2.8 billion. The woman who built the empire she said I would never even touch. The next morning, I drove back to the neighborhood I had once prayed to escape. The cracked sidewalks, the sagging porches, the familiar rusted mailbox with our faded last name, it all felt frozen in time, untouched by the years I had spent rebuilding myself. My mother stepped out onto the porch as soon as my car pulled in, her eyes narrowing instantly, scanning the vehicle like she was assessing an alien ship that had landed in her driveway. "Whose car is that?" she demanded, squinting at the polished midnight blue surface. For a brief second, I considered telling her right then, but I wanted the truth to land where it deserved, right in the center of her certainty. So I simply said, "Get in. I'll take you to where you need to go." She hesitated, arms crossed, lips pursed. But curiosity overpowered her contempt. She slid into the passenger seat. In the moment the door closed, her posture stiffened. "This is nice," she muttered unwillingly, fingers brushing the smooth interior. I pulled away from the house, the road unfolding ahead like a story waiting to be told. I didn't turn on the radio. I wanted the silence to speak first. "So," she said after a moment, "what have you been doing? Still wasting time on those little projects of yours?" I swallowed a bitter laugh. "Little projects?" My work was in 5 major U.S. cities and 2 in the UK, and we were closing deals in Canada and Germany. My name was on Forbes profiles and industry panels. Investors quoted my algorithms like scripture. Yet here, with her, I was still the child she had boxed in. "I've been busy," I said simply. "Doing what?" Her voice carried that familiar sharpness, less a question, more an accusation. "Building something," I answered. "Something big." She scoffed. "You always exaggerate. If you'd listened to me, you'd have a stable job by now." I took a slow breath. feeling the subtle hum of the electric engine beneath us like a heartbeat. Actually, I said, I just finalized a partnership yesterday. It'll expand our operations to the entire Northeast region. She frowned. Operations? For my company. The word company lodged in her throat. She shifted in her seat, trying to hide the flicker of unease. What company? Some little startup? More than that. I turned onto the highway, the same stretch where our old car had broken down years ago. She didn't notice the symbolism, but I did. I felt it in my bones. I founded Aurora Transit Systems, I said quietly. She blinked, once, twice, then laughed harshly. No, you didn't. Don't be ridiculous. That company's been all over the news. I know, I replied. Because I built it. Her jaw tightened. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. You're lying. I'm not. I reached over and tapped the car's large dashboard screen. It lit up instantly, displaying Aurora's operating system, the one I programmed myself, the one used in hundreds of transit hubs. She stared as the interface greeted me. Welcome back, Emily Carter. CEO access level. Her breath caught. The disbelief in her eyes shifted into something I had never seen from her fear. Real, unfiltered fear. This is a joke, she whispered. It has to be. You weren't capable of... Mom, I cut in gently. I built a $2.8 billion transportation empire. With my own hands, my own ideas, my own sacrifices. She swallowed hard, the words rattling her. But I told everyone you were hopeless. You couldn't even... I know what you told everyone, I said. You told them I'd fail. You told me I'd never make it. You told me I'd never even own a car. I slowed the car as the memories flooded back the night she unplugged my computer so I would stop dreaming. The morning she hid my textbooks. The way she dismissed every victory before the ink dried. And yet here we are, I continued. In a car I bought outright. A car that exists because I built the technology that powers half the autonomous fleet in this region. A car you said I'd never touch. She turned her face toward the window, but her voice cracked. I didn't think you'd leave me behind. That sentence hit me harder than all the insults she had ever thrown. Leave her behind? She never walked beside me to begin with. I didn't leave you, I said softly. You pushed me. She flinched. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The truth was louder than anger. You told me to settle. You told me to shrink. You convinced me that small dreams were safer. But I realized something your fear wasn't my responsibility to carry. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She sat there, mouth trembling, hands twisting in her lap. I pulled off the highway and stopped at a scenic overlook, a place where the city stretched out below us, its roads weaving like veins of purpose. She stared at it, silent. You see all that? I asked quietly. In a few years, most of those buses and shuttles will run with Aurora systems. People will get home safer, faster, and easier. Kids won't have to walk in the dark. Nurses won't pray for rides. Whole communities will breathe again because transportation won't fail them. I exhaled slowly, studying the ache in my chest. I didn't build this empire to spite you. I built it because I knew what it felt like to be stranded. I knew what it felt like to be told, you'll never. I wanted to prove that the world could be redesigned. She turned to me then, eyes shining with something like regret too late, too soft, but there. I didn't know you were capable of all this, she whispered. I guess you never looked close enough, I replied. The silence that followed stretched thin, fragile. Then she asked the question I had been waiting for my entire life. Who are you now? I smiled, not cruelly, not triumphantly, but with a calm, steady pride that came from years of surviving storms alone. I'm the girl you said would never own a car, I told her. And I'm the woman who built a transportation empire anyway. We sat there a while longer, letting the wind carry away the old version of our story. When I finally drove her home, she didn't speak. She didn't have to. For the first time, she understood who I had become and who I had always been meant to be. And as I pulled away from her house for the last time, the sun caught the hood of my car, turning the midnight blue paint into a sharp, brilliant glow. Aurora. Light breaking through darkness. My mother once said I'd never own a car. She never imagined I'd build the future of transportation instead.